Watch Morning Live on SABC2. It's an extended broadcast, this, looking at the Cup of African Nations tournament. Let's show you the stadiums. There was a conversation now about the cities that are going to be hosting the Cup of African Nations tournament. This is Moses Mabhida Stadium, and that famous arch that has become globally known now, this arch, and you can bungee jump from there. So some of the matches are going to be taking place here at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Let's show you the next stadium where matches are going to be taking place now. Now, this is the National Stadium, otherwise known as FNB, otherwise known as Soccer City. But for this tournament, it is the National Stadium. Some call it affectionately the Calabash. And this picture, of course, taken at night. It's here in Johannesburg, just outside of Nasrec. And you can see the skyline of the magnificent city of Johannesburg. Let's show you the third stadium. And this is the stadium in PE, Nelson Mandela Bay. I remember I watched there the match between Portugal and the Ivory Coast. This was during the World Cup of 2010. So Didier Drogba there and Cristiano Ronaldo, some of those global icons have played there. So this is where some of the AFCON matches are going to be taking place as well. Let's show you the fourth stadium here. This is the Royal Bafokeng Stadium in Rustenburg, a magnificent facility as well. And this is the Sports Palace, as it's affectionately known, the Royal Bafokeng Sports Palace in Rustenburg. Let's show you quickly stadium number 5, the last stadium. This is Mbombela Stadium in Nelspruit. Regrettably, we can't show you the outside, the external facade of the stadium, but this is the stadium in full, and apologies for the pixelating quality of the picture. But those are the 5 stadia that are going to be hosting tournaments of the Cup of African matches of the Cup of African Nations tournament. Now, Leanne, you've got some tweet messages there with you.
A couple of tweets coming through in support of Bafana Bafana, and just talking about, I think what Vuyo was mentioning is that Bafana mustn't try their best and do their best, they must win. Well, a lot of people are actually agreeing with you and hoping that that is the case for Bafana Bafana. One of our, I suppose, somebody who corresponds with us a lot is Thabo Lietsitso, who's writing and telling us what stood out most as a 2010 volunteer at Soccer City. Now, no, it's the National Stadium, but at Soccer City at the time, was the record fan capacity at every single game. Are people ready for AFCON? That's one of the questions he's asking. Another question he's asking is also, is there, the issue of racism in soccer, in football, especially worldwide, is that happening? Is that being addressed? And then finally, somebody's shouting out at the SABC. Claudia, maybe you can address this one. Why are we not broadcasting the Proteas matches currently playing? We know that we're talking about soccer and AFCON and how we'll be behind them. But why not the Proteas? There's a question for you. All right, let's go back to...
the match is at St. George's Park this morning.
That's happening at St. George's Park, absolutely. And people want that
completely overwhelmed
broadcast.
New Zealand in the first test. I mean, that was absolutely impressive.
Yeah, it is indeed. Well, let's see if Claudia can answer this for us and help us out and give the viewers an answer. Let's go back to you, Peter.
Thank you very much indeed, Leanne. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite hear the questions that have come through, so we're going to have to come back to you in a short while to get those questions. But in fact, one of the questions, what was that again? Okay, all right, okay. So some of the questions that are starting to come through, I'm not sure, I think perhaps you, Mr. Mutsanen, can answer that question. A viewer said, why aren't we broadcasting some of the current games that are being played?
Can you repeat?
Why aren't we broadcasting some of the current games that are being played?
I don't know which games, because we are broadcasting all friendlies that Bafana is playing, so I don't know what that is nice talking about.
I'll get some clarity from what the viewer was saying with that particular question. But I have a question for you, Mr. Mbebe. We are 8 days away. When I drive around the city, you would not think that the biggest tournament is taking place in this country in literally just a week away. With the World Cup, everyone knew. What's different? What's, can I say, gone wrong, or what's been a challenge in terms of marketing this biggest story?
I think we have said before that we do concede that marketing has been quite a big challenge. We talked about the issue of funding. We talked about the issue that we need to put everything in context. I always said when we started, we cannot just blind copy World Cup and say, this is what happened in the World Cup, this is what's going to happen. It's a totally different tournament with its totally different challenges. That's the first thing. So I will concede that we have not had a lot of marketing. But I think that you must also remember that it's unfortunate because we always use Johannesburg as a mirror. That if we don't see something in Johannesburg, then we say nothing is happening. I'm sure those people who were in Durban, those people who were in PE, will give you a different story about the visibility of the tournament. And drawback is a challenge because, as you know, we're only having 2 games here. And you know that, unlike the World Cup, everybody was queuing up to meet Blatter, as the minister was saying. But here you are always, many a time, cajoling people. We are busy with engagements with the city of Ekurhuleni to make sure that we can get those flags up there. But in fairness, we have had quite tremendous support. We have seen the billboards, we have seen the posters, but putting up flags is not the same as putting up a billboard and a poster. You go through quite a process of making sure you get the relevant approvals. But I'm sure that in the next week or so we're going to see that happening. But I think that Johannesburg has been a challenge for us in terms of making sure, not Johannesburg as the city, but the Gauteng has been a challenge for us in terms of making sure that we can get that visibility. But obviously the LOC, we did concede that our marketing started late because of the financial constraints that we had.
All right, okay. One last question with that, just before we go to the floor. How does one go about marketing a tournament such as this and convincing people to come and watch and get excited, and also getting the international community to get excited about it? Unfortunately, our teams didn't do well at the World Cup final. I think we had one team that got through to the last 16. So it may be, I don't know, there might be a hangover that, people won't have as much interest in this tournament as they would have had we had done well in the World Cup. So how do you convince people that this is a tournament worth watching, worth getting excited about, worth getting behind?
I think there are 3 things. There are 3 ingredients in marketing any product. Is the product correct? I strongly believe, and that's the message we've been sending all across ever since we started, that whether you talk of the European leagues, talk of the FA, you talk about France, you talk about Germany, who are the exciting players there? Who do people talk about? It's players that come from Africa or players from African origin. So how can we say as Africans, when those players now congregate under the flags of their nations, that we can then say the product is poor? I think it's a self-belief that we need to have. Because when Drogba plays for I don't know, he plays for China now, I don't know where he's going to go to, everybody gets excited. Why they should not be excited when he plays for Ivory Coast? So I think we need to get to that point as Africans to understand that the leagues of the world are made exciting primarily by African players. When those African players come together now in this ultimate sporting experience, hence the slogan, celebrate Africa, celebrate African football. That was the first step, was for us to be able to convince people that this tournament, in terms of the footballing experience, it is the best footballing experience. I will challenge everyone, if you actually go into the field of play, to give me any Continental Cup, perhaps bar the one with Brazil and Argentina, where you can say the football itself has got a better football than the one we're going to have. Okay. Secondly, I think that it's about making sure that the product, people have got belief that it is credible. We have assured people, we have said, in terms of the infrastructure, the country has got the best infrastructure. It was proven during the 2010 World Cup. That's why we did not go anywhere else. We said we're going to use exactly the same stadiums, so that we can say to people the product is fine, the product is good. And lastly, it's about ensuring people that when they go to the stadiums and that when they experience the product, they'll experience it in a very friendly atmosphere. And we've said that. Tournament is going to be secure. You are guaranteed your seat that you are going to buy. We're going to have entertainment, as the minister always says. We're going to have razzmatazz. I think people are not going to buy their tickets. I can assure you. We'll sit on the 11th of February and say, it's a pity I did not buy my ticket on time. I can assure you, many are going to regret not buying their tickets on time. So this pessimism, let's go buy our tickets. I guarantee, I'm not saying because I'm the CEO of the AFCON, I've seen what this tournament is going to do.
All right. Okay, well, let's go straight to our tables now. Beginning at table number 13, Ghana Hatting. I wonder if that's a prophetic name.
Good morning to all. My question goes to the LOC. I have 2 questions, as a matter of fact. The first question is, what is the criteria in terms of the small business people? I'm talking about the hawkers, the vendors. What proximities has been set for them as compared to 2010? The second question is, since some of us are non-rights holders, how do we go about applying for ticketing, media ticketing on the opening or for any other game? Thank you.
Well, you want to come as the media because you don't have rights to do business, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm from Joburg City Community Radio.
Right, okay. All right. So, a couple of issues.
Well, I think in terms of the small business, I mean, we need to understand. The LOC from day one, if you look into our database, you look at the people who have used, even for the ticketing process, which many people have been complaining about, we're using small businesses. So we've been committed to the issue of SMMEs and the issue of black economic empowerment. So I think that we've been committed and we've stayed true to that course. We've said to the cities, you now need to look at making sure that we can find spaces where the hawkers can continue to do their business during the tournament without affecting the rights holders, because we have to protect the tournament. There are commercial partners that have put money into the tournament, so we can't just have an open-ended situation. The cities are busy with that. We have to look at the issue of health and safety issues. So I think the cities, we have seen their plans, many of them, and we are comfortable that hawkers will be able to find spaces where they will trade during the tournament. I'm surprised because it's not the first time the lady has asked the question. We've answered it before. We've said every media, and I'm surprised if they've not done, every media in this country knows that there was a period where they needed to apply for accreditation through CAF Online, through the website. It was open to anybody. Nobody was discriminated. If they had not put the applications, their fault.
Okay, all right. Table number 6, Ms. Fusi Makabane.
My name is Fusi Florence Makasani. I am from South African Networking for Women in Transport. My question on the marketing side of this tournament is, what about using the local minibus taxis as one of your marketing tools, Mr. Mbembe? Because now, if we remember in 2009 on the Confed, taxis had branded for that tournament to highlight that there's a big tournament coming in. Unfortunately, 2010 they didn't make it. So I think we still have got time of marketing this tournament via the advertisement on the taxi industry, which is committed and dedicated to transport soccer fans, as most of them, they come in from the townships. And if the LOC can also invest in the taxi industry to lower the prices of transportation, much as they do in other businesses, dealing with them directly, so via the Department of Transport, as they have the organization that they recognize, that they are officially recognized, your Santaco, your National Taxi Alliance, including us as women, South African Networking for Women in Transport. Thank you.
All right, so essentially, taxis, how can they be involved, more involved, and support them?
Well, they are involved. I will take it up with the team if they're not, because I've had 2 meetings with Santaco dealing precisely with the issues that she's raising, about the involvement of the taxi industry around the movement of people in the public areas, long distance, short distances. When we met with the cities, looking at the park and rides, we said we want a specific area where the taxi industry, when they bring people to the stadium, there's dedicated parking for the taxi industry. So they're not just left to the vagaries of people. So we've had that extensive engagement with Santaco to make sure that the taxi industry is looked after specifically. But at the end of the day, we cannot force people to use taxis. We can only create a platform to say, here is the methodologies that you as an industry can utilize to move people around. Insofar as advertising, we've engaged the people that are rights holders around the taxis. We've signed contracts with the Prime Media Group, which has got quite a big, extensive network, and then I'm sure you're going to start to see some of the taxis being branded. But again, if there are other stakeholders that have got the rights on the branding of taxis, we are freely and available anytime to engage with them and make sure that we can assist.
All right, table number 17, Taming Asana. Table number 17, where are you?
Thank you very much. My My question, I'm Taming Masana, Zigo Strategies. I'm saying that CAF is one of the Pan-African success jewel of post-colonial Africa. Against very negative imaging of Africa as a continent of failure, what is done to showcase this success from its inception, its growth, and to its current global status that we see it as maybe series of a number of communication platforms as content for the publics of Africa to see that indeed they do have something to offer the world.
Okay. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, is that something maybe you can talk to?
Yeah. No, thank you very much. Indeed, I think we realize that it is time for Africans to believe in themselves. And you know that when we started bidding for the World Cup in 2006, we made the point that as Africans, we can bid for the mega events of the world. And it is quite important that we must inculcate in the mind of each and every one of us to believe in us first, and not then believe in the former colonizers of ourselves. And secondly, after we did that in 2010, you remember that we had all our ambassadors that were involved in 2010 in the bid, and all of us, we said that is an African bid. And indeed, it was a success. It was precisely because all of us as Africans believe in ourselves, and we therefore have to improve the image of this continent. And as you may know, prior to 2010, when there was talk about B and C plans if South Africa fails, and we all stood up because some of Africans wanted actually to sell that image that we as Africans were unable to host that tournament of that magnitude. And believe me you, after we successfully held that tournament, and being granted 9 out of 10 by FIFA, these vociferous critics are dumbfounded as we speak today. And that is the reason why, therefore, ever since then, we are actually marketing Africa as one of the best continents. Hence, it is incumbent upon all of us to make sure that this tournament is not less than any UEFA tournament or any other continental tournament that is being hosted by all other, even including our former colonizers. That is why, therefore, I think the point is very crucial that we must actually tell each and everyone that we can, as South Africans, actually host the tournament of this magnitude. As South Africa in particular, World Cup in rugby, we were there. Cricket, we didn't fail people, and even our government in most of continental and international events, we hosted them with resounding success. Clearly, we have proved to all and sundry that as Africans, and South Africans in particular, we are able and capable of hosting mega events of this magnitude.
Mr. Seneng, if I could just follow up with that particular question about marketing and telling the story of AFCON. Is there a role for the national broadcaster, apart from just broadcasting the matches, but also to change some of these perceptions that people have?
I think we have already taken a decision at the SABC. We are very bold. If you can see all the decisions that we have taken, those are bold decisions. And in life, you need to be bold, you need to have guts, and take right decisions. And all the decisions that you are taking, changing the mindset of people, because that is key for us, especially as a public broadcaster. When we talk about continent, we should be proud of continent. We should be proud of, we are South Africans. We should make sure that AFCON succeed. All of us, as a public broadcaster, we should lead by example. The issue that I was raising about money is just one of But what is key is for us as a public broadcaster to make sure that we go out, we communicate with people about the stadiums and so on. We do interviews. We make this AFCON very exciting, which we are starting to do, and I think you can see on television and radio. The minister was just saying the population of South Africa is more than 55 million. SABC command more than 30 million a day. Our radio stations, they command more than 26 million a day. I mean, this is a big animal, SABC.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back.